I gotta be honest with you. I don't think it's a coincidence that right as I start to record this video, it starts storming outside, thunder and lightning, and pouring down rain. So if you hear that in the background, that's what that is. But not a coincidence because the Notre Dame parade is going to get rained on Saturday night in this game against Ohio State. I know it's Marcus Freeman's debut, kind of. He was interim head coach in the, was that the Fiesta Bowl where they lost to Oklahoma State? I believe it was. Anyway, so he was named interim head coach for that game, but technically his first game as full-time head coach at Notre Dame, playing against his alma mater. Did he play for Ohio State or just used to coach there? Doesn't matter. Look, as much as I want this to be a good game, it's not going to be. Ohio State is going to run away with this. Is Notre Dame a terrible team? No, they're not. They're a legitimate top 10 team, I think. We'll see how it shakes out at the end of the year. They have this game. They host Clemson. They host Southern Cal. They play on the road at North Carolina. Those are all 4 games they could lose. I don't think they're going to lose all 4 of them. But anyway, point is, I think they're a pretty good team. But they're just not going to win this game. Ohio State, offensively, is just going to be too much. Just forget Ohio State's defensive issues for a second. Just pretend they don't have any. Or you can pretend their defense is terrible if you want. Even if Ohio State's defense is terrible, Notre Dame just doesn't have the offense to keep up score for score with Ohio State. Ohio State's defense could be worse than last year. They'd win this game 45-42. That's just what would happen. Now, I don't think Ohio State's defense is going to be worse than last year. In fact, I think it's going to be better. But let's talk about Notre Dame for a second. Well, Ohio State's a 17-point favorite. 17, according to DraftKings, right before I got ready to record this video Thursday afternoon. So, 17-point favorite. This line started at 13 and has just gone steadily up in Ohio State's favor. And I wouldn't be surprised if by the time this game kicks off, it's at 17.5 or 18. I feel like more money is going to come in on Ohio State the closer we get to this game. But anyway, we'll start with Notre Dame. Notre Dame's a really good team. Are they great? No. Ohio State most likely is. But Notre Dame, who's their best player? Michael Meyer, the tight end. He might have a good game. We'll see. A lot of that will depend, of course, on their new quarterback, Tyler Buckner. Getting his first start is Tyler Buckner for Notre Dame. So, tough ask for him to go on the road into the horseshoe at night against the number 2 ranked Ohio State team and try to get the win. Where might Notre Dame have some advantages in this game? Well, if you're a Notre Dame homer or you're looking for some sort of cup half full deal for Rudy in this game against Ohio State, you have to bank on Notre Dame being able to run the ball at will. That's what cost Ohio State last year. Not their offense, really not even their pass defense, although their pass defense wasn't really anything to write home about either. It was Ohio State's run defense that really cost them in their 2 losses last year. First game of the season against Oregon and the last game of the regular season against Michigan. Oregon and Michigan just ran it down their throat and there was nothing Ohio State could do about it. Nothing. Defensive line was on roller skates. They have brought in defensive coordinator Jim Knowles, who was at Oklahoma State last year. Remarkable turnaround with Oklahoma State's defense under the tutelage of Jim Knowles. How much of an impact can he have game 1, year 1 at Ohio State? I think a pretty big impact. You know, some teams that struggle defensively, you can look at it and tell that it's clearly a talent issue. Some teams struggle defensively, and maybe it has to do with their offensive philosophy. Like Tennessee, for example. Tennessee doesn't have the most talented defense in the world. They're also not the least talented defense in the world, but their defense struggles because of the style of offense Tennessee plays, right? You look at the Oklahoma defenses that were so bad. What was the issue there? Talent. They had no talent. That period. Oklahoma recruited in the top 5 and the top 10. Yes, and go look at all those recruiting classes. 9 out of the top 10 players Oklahoma signed every single year were offensive skill position players. So they didn't have the talent. Ohio State's got the talent. They had the talent last year. I really believe Ohio State's issues were related to their defensive coordinator, the scheme that he ran, the philosophy he implemented, and just sort of the way he went about things from a defensive standpoint. I think that was more of an issue than talent. Now, does Ohio State have a Chase Young on the roster? No. Somebody that's going to get a sack every single big third down of the year? No. I mean, Chase Young was a generational type talent there, but Ohio State's got talent at all 3 levels of the defense. Now, clearly they've got to play a lot better, whether it's this game or games down the road, because it sort of feels like this is a national title or bust type of deal this year for Ohio State, doesn't it? They have 3 players on offense in the top 12 in the Heisman odds. C.J. Stroud at quarterback, Smith and the Jigba at wide receiver, and Travion Henderson at running back. Never mind their other 3 or 4 wide receivers that would start on any team in America. Marvin Harrison Jr., Omeka Ibuka. The weirder your name is, the more likely you are to start at wide receiver for Ohio State. Of course, you also have to have talent. Best wide receiver room in America. So Notre Dame defensively, they have some good pieces too in all 3 levels. Now, they lost all-world safety Kyle Hamilton last year, first safety taken in the NFL draft. Don't think they're going to have the ability to replace him. That could hurt Notre Dame in this game. Even with him, Notre Dame gave up 225 yards passing per game last year. I know this isn't last year. People keep telling me, why does he keep talking about last year like it's got something to do with this? Look, it's week 1. We haven't seen these teams play. You have to take some stuff from what you saw last year and try to apply it forward to this year. You know, plus and minus the personnel changes and any coaching changes and stuff like that. So stop with that. Anyway, so if Notre Dame is going to find a way to pull off this monumental upset, and that's what it would be, a monumental upset, a first-year head coach going on the road against the number 2 ranked team in America as a 17-point underdog and pulling off the win, what would have to happen? Well, you're going to have to run. You're going to have to run the ball and hope that Ohio State can't stop it, because if you put this game in Tyler Buchner's hands, you're going to lose by more than 17. And I think that's probably what's going to happen. I just don't think Notre Dame will be able to run the ball consistently enough on Ohio State to keep the Ohio State offense off the field and keep this game close. I think Ohio State is going to score early and often. I will be absolutely shocked if Ohio State doesn't get 40-something points in this game. People, look, I've been doing this a long time. I think Ohio State's going to win, so everybody's going to be here saying, this guy just hates Notre Dame. Yeah, you figured it out. And secretly, I love Ohio State, nitwit. Slap yourself in the back of the neck. I don't give 2 hoots or a holler about Notre Dame or Ohio State, to be honest with you. I don't really care which one of these 2 teams wins. I just feel like Ohio State's going to win this game and run away with it, particularly in the second half. I'll be absolutely shocked if Ohio State doesn't get into the 40s here, and I don't see any way possible Notre Dame gets there. So, the 17-point spread. Can Ohio State cover that? Well, what if Ohio State scores 42 to 45 points, which is kind of what I'm thinking. 42 minus 17 would be 27. 42 to 27 would be a 17-point spread. 45 to 27, and Ohio State covers the 17. I would take Ohio State and lay the 17. I think this is the best offense in college football. They averaged 48, 49 points a game last year, something like that. They're probably going to average close to that this year, or more, probably. I mean, I know they lost 2 first-round receivers or 2 receivers to the NFL draft, but my God, man, Ohio State's wide receiver room is just as ridiculous as Georgia's tight end room. It's that serious. In fact, I think either Ohio State's wide receiver room or Georgia's tight end room is the most talented position. One of those 2 position groups is the most talented position group in the country. It's either Ohio State's wide receivers or Georgia's tight ends. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And I don't think Notre Dame's going to be able to consistently get pressure on C.J. Stroud. And if you don't, he's going to sit back there and pick you apart. The short intermediate passing game, he's accurate. They've got big playmaking wide receivers that go 4 deep. They've got 4 wide receivers that can beat you deep. They can catch, they can run routes. They're all NFL receivers. I just feel like Notre Dame is outmatched in this game. I mean, you go back and you look at Notre Dame's last 7, 8, 9, 10 games against top 5 or top 10 teams. It's not pretty. I think Notre Dame is something like 3-7 against the top 10 in their last 10 games or something. And something like 6 of those games, they've lost by 14 points or more. Well, I mean, you all know the story on Notre Dame, right? They beat the hell out of the service academies. They get placed into a BCS Bowl, if you want to go way back, or nowadays a New Year's Six Bowl or a playoff game, and they just get blown out of the water. It just happens time and time again. Notre Dame hasn't won one of those major postseason games in over 30 years. This isn't a postseason game, but it's a major game, week 1, and I don't see Notre Dame winning it. I just don't. I don't think they've got the firepower or the horsepower offensively to keep up with Ohio State, and defensively, I just don't think they're going to be able to do enough to slow Ohio State down. I mean, Notre Dame is looking at a situation here where, honestly, to win this game, it's going to be the type of deal where they're going to have to force a couple of turnovers, maybe even a defensive touchdown, a big special teams play or special teams touchdown. I mean, it would take that kind of stuff happening, in my opinion, for Notre Dame to win this game. So I got to take Ohio State and lay the points. Shout out to Marcus Freeman, starting out his career at Notre Dame 0-2. But whatever you do, don't tell a Notre Dame man about that. They get all pissed off.